They labeled you useless because of me, Mom, because I couldn't get pregnant. And that judgment destroyed my marriage.
My name is Isabel. I am 29 years old then, married to Daniel for 3 years. 3 years of trying, of planning, of hope that kept resetting itself every month. 3 years of calendars and ovulation apps, of optimism that felt rational one day and humiliating the next. 3 years of doctor's appointments that ended the same way, unexplained. Keep trying, give it time. Time, apparently, was something other people could afford. I couldn't. I didn't move from the kitchen. I stood at the sink holding the kettle under the tap, watching the water rise. I could hear her voice from the living room. She was on the phone, probably with her sister. Someone who would sympathize. Someone who would murmur agreement and confirm what she was saying. The water reached the fill line. I didn't turn the tap off. It spilled over the edge, cold against my fingers. These things are genetic, you know, she said. Her mother probably had the same issues. Poor Daniel. He wanted children so badly. I shut off the tap, set the kettle down, walked past the living room without looking in, went upstairs and closed the bedroom door behind me. I didn't slam it. I closed it carefully, the way you do when you don't want to wake anyone. Controlled, deliberate, the latch clicking softly into place. That was 5 years ago. Daniel and I met at work. He was in sales. I was in operations. It wasn't a story people leaned forward to hear. No sparks, no drama. We just kept ending up in the same meetings. Started eating lunch together. Realized we laughed at the same things. He paid attention. Remembered what I said about my weekend and asked about it later. Brought me coffee the way I liked it, without having to be reminded. His family was nothing like mine. They were loud, involved, constant. I'd been raised to be independent, to solve my own problems, not to ask for help unless it was unavoidable. Daniel's family did the opposite. They showed up. They called. They invited themselves over. His mother had opinions about everything. What we ate, where we lived, how we spent money when we should have children. At first, I thought that meant they cared. Daniel said it did. They just want to be part of our lives. He told me when I admitted I felt overwhelmed. So I let them in. I invited them over for dinner. I called his mother on her birthday. I asked her advice about curtains, recipes, insurance plans. I believed that marrying someone meant accepting the whole structure around them, not just the person. The pregnancy conversations started gently. Any news yet? She'd ask at Sunday dinners. Daniel would smile. Not yet. Soon, she'd say, patting his hand. After a while, soon turned into suggestions. Had we seen a specialist? Had I tried acupuncture? Her friend's daughter had used a vitamin regimen. Maybe I should look into that too. I scheduled my first doctor's appointment alone. I didn't tell Daniel. I told myself I wanted answers before involving anyone else. If something was wrong, I'd handle it privately first. The doctor was kind. She ordered tests, told me 6 months was still early. Most couples conceived within a year. There was no reason to worry yet. Daniel's mother was already worried. She talked to her friends. I know because one of them stopped me in the grocery store and told me about her niece who'd had the same problem. She explained IVF to me in the produce aisle while I held a bag of apples and tried not to cry. When I told Daniel about the appointment, he was hurt that I'd gone alone. We're in this together, he said. You don't have to carry it by yourself. So we went together after that. More doctors, more tests, everything normal. My hormones were fine. My cycle was regular. Daniel's results were normal too. There's no reason this shouldn't happen, they told us. Sometimes it just takes longer. Try to stay relaxed. Stress can interfere. Stay relaxed. Daniel's mother started bringing articles, printouts, magazine page, highlighted sections, diets, positions, stress management techniques. She meant well, Daniel said, but the comments grew sharper. The room grew quieter when I entered. Daniel's sister talked about her kids, soccer games, spelling bees, and everyone listened, glowing. Then there'd be a pause, a glance in my direction, a pivot to another topic. A year passed, then 18 months. Sex became something scheduled, managed. Daniel started struggling. It's the pressure pressure, he said. It doesn't feel natural anymore. His mother didn't know that part. She only knew I still wasn't pregnant, and that was becoming a problem. I began hearing things indirectly. Concerns, observations. Mom's worried about you, Daniel would say. She thinks you might be working too hard. Maybe you should cut back. I wasn't, but I saw him starting to question it, starting to wonder if she might be right. The comment about my mother came 2 years in. That afternoon in the kitchen, with the kettle overflowing and my hand numb from cold water. My mother hadn't failed at anything. She had me. That should have been enough proof. But Daniel's mother needed an explanation. Something tidy, something she could point to. And since no diagnosis existed, she invented one. Made it hereditary. Made it about my family. About where I came from. I lay on the bed that afternoon staring at the ceiling. I could hear her voice downstairs. I thought about confronting her. I knew exactly how it would go. An apology wrapped in concern. Daniel stepping in to mediate. Me reassuring everyone that I wasn't upset. So I stayed quiet. When she left, I went back downstairs and made dinner. When Daniel came home, I asked about his day. We ate. We watched television. We went to bed. I didn't tell him what I'd heard. Maybe I wanted to see if he already knew. Maybe I was testing whether he'd defend me on his own. Or maybe I already suspected he wouldn't. Time kept moving. We kept trying. I kept getting my period. Daniel's sister got pregnant again. At the announcement dinner, the pores came back. That look, you'll get there, she said to me later in the kitchen. It happens when you least expect it. Then, quieter, a mom's worried. Have you considered that clinic in the city? The one for difficult cases? Difficult. Daniel's mother started calling him instead of the house line. He'd step outside, close doors, come back looking drained. Everything okay? I'd ask. Just work, he'd say, but it wasn't work. I could hear it in his voice. Apologetic, defeated. 3 years in, he suggested IVF. Adoption. We should look at options. I wasn't opposed. I just understood what it meant. More appointments, more scrutiny, more chances to fail, more involvement from his mother. Let's think about it, I said. We thought about it for 6 months. Or I did. Then one night I overheard him on the phone with his sister. She won't decide, he said. Mom keeps asking. I walked into the room. He hung up quickly. Have you thought more about IVF? He asked. Yes. And? I'm still thinking. We can't keep doing this, he said. What am I supposed to tell my family? That was the truth. Not about children, but about explanations. Tell them it's none of their business, I said. They care about you. He didn't deny it. When I told him about the genetic comment, he didn't look surprised. He didn't ask questions. He didn't defend me. She didn't mean it like that, he said. That was the moment I understood he'd known. After that, things changed quietly. No fights, just distance. We stopped trying, stopped pretending. His mother noticed. I stopped going to Sunday dinners. 4 months later, he suggested counseling. I'm not pulling away, I said. I'm just tired of being the problem. He said I wasn't, but he couldn't answer why his family had so much influence over our marriage. So we drifted. I started spending weekends with my own mother. She didn't ask for grandchildren. She just made tea. You don't owe them anything, as she said once. I wasn't sure she was right. 5 years in, Daniel started staying at his parents' house. First occasionally, then often. I didn't argue. One Saturday, he didn't come home. I'm staying another night, he said. Family thing. You could come, he added. No, I said. That's okay, and I meant it. He hung up. I stayed on the couch with my phone still in my hand, staring at the blank screen. A family thing. Sarah's husband's birthday. An event I hadn't known about, hadn't been invited to. Something Daniel mentioned only after I said no, as if the offer itself was a formality. Something he already knew I wouldn't accept. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even hurt. I was calculating, trying to understand what stage this was, trying to see the outline of what was happening before anyone named it out loud. Daniel came home Sunday night. He walked in like he'd only stepped out for groceries, not disappeared for an entire weekend. Asked if there was anything to eat. There's pasta in the fridge, I said. He reheated it, ate standing at the counter, put the plate in the sink, went upstairs. I think we should talk to lawyers, he said finally. Fine, but you're still leaving. He packed a suitcase that night. Clothes only. Said he'd come back for the rest. I watched him pack. Didn't help. Didn't cry. When he was done, he stood there like he was waiting for something. Anger, grief, resistance. I gave him nothing. I'll call you, he said. Okay. The door closed. His car pulled away. The house went quiet again. I lay on his side of the bed, staring at the ceiling. The same ceiling I'd stared at years earlier when I first realized something was wrong. I didn't cry. I didn't feel relief. I felt clarity, not comfort, just clarity. This wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of understanding what had actually been done to me. The lawyer's office smelled like old paper and furniture polish. Margaret had grey hair, reading glasses on a chain, and the kind of calm that comes from listening to people explain the worst moments of their lives for decades. So your husband has moved out, she said, and you're seeking a divorce. Yes. No children? No. We went through assets. The house, the accounts, the retirement funds, standard things, the down payment, she said. Was that documented as a gift? Yes. From his parents. In writing? I don't think so. She nodded slowly. We'll need to verify that. Gifts sometimes become loans during divorce. That thought stayed with me long after I left her office. Daniel called that night. His parents wanted to talk about the house. No, I said. 3 days later, a letter arrived from a different law firm. Larger, more aggressive. Daniel's parents were asserting the down payment had been a loan. Margaret asked me to look for proof. I found the wedding card. This gift is to help you build your life together. That sentence changed everything, but it didn't stop them. They argued the gift was for Daniel alone, then that it was conditional, then that it was meant for grandchildren. Margaret dismantled every claim, but it cost time and money and energy. I stopped spending, stopped socializing, worked more hours, ate cheaper food. A coworker who'd been divorced warned me, if you cave now, you'll regret it forever. The math was simple. The meaning wasn't. If I accepted their version, I was agreeing I'd never really belonged. So I fought. And then, at mediation, I settled. Not because they were right, but because my life was worth more than the war. Daniel wouldn't meet my eyes. They were protecting me, he said. From what? I asked. From me? He had no answer. The house sold. I moved into a small apartment, sold most of my furniture, reduced my life to what fit. My mother helped me unpack. You look better, she said. I wasn't sure how. I got a dog. A rescue. He followed me everywhere, slept by my bed, trusted me completely. Work improved. Life stabilized. Then I saw the house again. New owners, new curtains, a pregnant woman at the mailbox. I walked away. That night, the anger finally arrived. Cold, precise. They hadn't just rejected me. They'd managed me out. And once I understood that, I opened my laptop, because now I knew exactly what I was dealing with. I started writing everything down. Every comment I could still hear clearly in my head. Every time I'd been excluded. Every conversation I'd overheard and pretended not to. The point when Daniel started staying at his parents' house more often. The point when a space became separation. When separation became lawyers. When his parents decided the down payment was suddenly a loan. I didn't know why I was documenting it. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to see it laid out. Needed proof that I wasn't rewriting the past to survive the present. That what I remembered had actually happened. I wrote for 2 hours straight. Dates, names, direct quotes, patterns that felt obvious once they were on the page. When I finished, I saved the document, shut the laptop, and went back to bed. Simon had claimed most of the mattress. I nudged him over and lay down beside him. His breathing was slow and steady. Simple, just a dog asleep, unconcerned with what had already happened or what might come next. I put my hand on his side and tried to match my breathing to his. Tried to borrow that certainty that the moment you're in is enough. It didn't work. My mind kept circling back to the document, to the shape it revealed. Eventually, I slept anyway, and when I woke up, the anger was still there, but it had changed. It wasn't chaotic anymore. It felt deliberate, like something I could use, even if I didn't know how yet. I just knew I would figure it out. Time was something I had now. Time and distance and the clarity that comes when you realize you were removed from a story long before you understood you were being written out of it. I kept working, kept walking Simon, kept living in the apartment that still felt temporary even months later. But after writing everything down, I stopped drifting. I started watching. In November, I got an email from someone I didn't recognize. Subject: regarding Daniel Reeves. I almost deleted it. Then I opened it. The email was from Cara, Daniel's cousin's ex-wife. Someone I barely remembered from holidays and family gatherings. Polite, quiet, always on the edge of conversations. They did the same thing to me, as she wrote. Different reason, same pattern. I thought I was losing my mind until I was out. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to. Then I wrote back, I'd like to talk. We met for coffee the next week. Cara didn't waste time. How long did it take you to realize something was wrong? She asked. I'm not sure I fully have, I said. But you know it wasn't just the marriage. Yes, she nodded. A year after my divorce. That's when I saw it. The system. How they decide who's a problem. How they isolate them. What was your problem? I had opinions. She smiled thinly. About money. About time. About not running every decision through Brian's mother. Did they try to take money back from you? She laughed once. Wedding gift, 20,000. Became a loan overnight. I felt something click into place. They don't waste time. As she continued, Brian was engaged 6 months after our divorce. Married within a year. Pregnant wife shortly after. I thought of Daniel's girlfriend. How quickly everything had moved. Did you ever wonder? Cara asked, if the replacement was already lined up before the divorce? I didn't answer. She showed me a Facebook post from June. Daniel and Emily, smiling. The caption, so happy these two found each other. June, we were still legally married. She was already in the family orbit, Cara said. Brian's wife's sister. Safe. Vetted. I took screenshots later that night. Added them to my document. Then I kept going. Photos from May. From April. Family events. Game nights. Familiarity before freedom. I didn't hack anything. I didn't break rules. I just paid attention. By December, my mother noticed. You sound like you're doing something you shouldn't, she said. I'm just looking, I told her. She didn't believe me. In January, Cara texted me, Daniel's engaged. I stared at that sentence for a long time. When she asked if I was okay, I didn't lie. I'm angry. Good, she wrote. Use it. That night I read through my document again, and for the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't just emotional manipulation. It was financial, strategic, rehearsed, gifts with strings, pressure to become dependent, assets protected through structures, people removed when they stopped performing. They were good at it, and they'd done it before. I started organizing the information differently. Less narrative, more structure, spreadsheets, timelines, patterns across marriages, divorces, properties. It looked unhinged if you didn't know the context. But I knew. In February, Emily called me. She sounded nervous, uncertain. Something felt wrong, she said. They were paying for the wedding, making decisions. Daniel wasn't pushing back. I told her the truth. She asked what she should do. That's not my decision, I said. She asked if I regretted leaving. No, she left still engaged. In March, I was promoted at work. You seem different, my boss said. More decisive. I stopped trying to make everyone happy. I moved into a better apartment. One I chose. One that fit me. Still, I kept researching. Then in August, I found something that mattered. Daniel's parents' rental property had active code violations. Mold, electrical hazards, no hot water, tenants with small children, months of ignored complaints. This wasn't about me anymore. I organized the documentation and sent it, anonymously, to a local journalist. 2 weeks later, the article ran. 3 days after that, Daniel texted me. I know what you did. Do you? I replied, this is harassment. It's public information. My parents are upset. They should fix the mold. They fixed everything within a week. That was the moment something shifted. Not revenge. Accountability. And for the first time, I felt lighter. I stopped obsessively tracking. Stopped watching their lives. I went out more. Read novels. Started running again. In September, my mother noticed. You seem less angry, she said. I'm still angry, I replied. But now, I thought. I know what to do with it. You're not letting it consume you anymore. She was right. The anger hadn't disappeared. Some things never fully do, but it had changed shape. It was quieter now, contained. Something I carried with me, rather than something that carried me. In October, another email arrived from Emily. I called off the wedding. It read, well, not the wedding. We already got married, but I'm leaving him. I just thought you should know you were right. I read it several times before replying. Are you okay? Not really, but I will be. His family is furious. They're threatening to sue me for the wedding costs. Can they do that? Talk to a lawyer. EI wrote. Get advice before you agree to anything. I can't afford one. I thought of Margaret, of what competent help had cost me, and how desperately I'd wished, at the time, for guidance that didn't come with more damage attached. I'll send you some names, EI replied. Some do free consultations. I sent her Margaret's contact information, along with 2 others I'd researched during my own divorce. I explained what to expect, what documents to gather, how to protect herself early. Then I added one more line. They're going to try to isolate you, to convince you you're the problem. Don't believe them, and document everything. Hours later, she wrote back. Thank you. I know you didn't have to help me. Yes, I did, EI answered. Because I did. She was young, frightened, and standing at the edge of the same collapse I'd already survived. I couldn't save her from the consequences of her choices, but I could make sure she didn't go through them alone. In November, a year and a half after my divorce was finalized, I went on my first date. His name was Marcus. We'd met at a work conference, stayed in casual contact, and eventually admitted mutual interest. He was divorced too. He had 2 children who lived with their mother most of the time. He moved carefully, the way people do when they've been hurt and don't intend to repeat their mistakes. We had dinner, talked about work, dogs, books. It was easy in a way I'd forgotten relationships could be. No performance, no shrinking, no effort to fit myself into someone else's expectations. Can I see you again? He asked at the end of the night. Yes, EI said. We took things slowly. No intensity, no rushing. Just 2 people figuring out whether they liked each other enough to continue. He met Simon. I met his elderly golden retriever, Betty. We went to movies, cooked together, settled into the comfortable rhythm of adults who understood that dating wasn't fantasy, it was compatibility. One night, 2 months in, he asked, what happened with your marriage? I couldn't have children, EI said. His family decided that made me expendable. The marriage ended. That's it. There was more, but that was the center of it. Did you want children? I thought I did. Now I'm not sure. Maybe I just wanted to want them, because that's what you're supposed to want. He nodded. I love my kids, but if I'm honest, I'm not sure I'd make the same choice again. It's harder than people admit. I appreciated that honesty. Does it bother you? EI asked. That I can't have them? No, he said. I already do. And even if I didn't, there are other ways to build a life. It wasn't just the right answer. It felt considered, real. By December, I stopped checking on Daniel altogether. Stopped looking at Facebook. Stopped wondering what he and Emily were doing, how the divorce was progressing, or whether his family had already selected another replacement. It didn't matter. Whatever was happening in their world was happening without me, and I was building something separate, something that belonged only to me. I still had the document, all the research, but I stopped adding to it, closed the file, left it on my hard drive like an archive from another life. The anger softened. It didn't vanish, but it integrated, became history instead of identity. On Christmas Eve, my mother asked if I was happy. We were in her kitchen, drinking tea while snow fell outside. Simon slept at my feet. The air smelled like the cookies we'd baked earlier. I think so, EI said. You think so? I'm not miserable, EI replied. Is that the same thing? Sometimes, she said, especially after what you've lived through. I'm seeing someone, EI told her. His name is Marcus. She smiled. Tell me about him. I did. About his quiet kindness, his patience, the way breathing felt easier around him, how different it was from my marriage, how little effort it took just to exist. I'm glad, she said. You deserve that. Do I? Yes, you always did, even when you couldn't see it. Later, lying in my childhood bed, I thought about that word, deserve, about whether anyone truly deserves anything, or whether we just do our best with what we're handed. I'd been given a failed marriage, a family that erased me, years spent trying to become someone I couldn't be. I walked away with fewer assets than I should have had, more scars than I wanted, and an intimate understanding of how power operates inside families. But I'd gained clarity, independence, and the knowledge that I could survive being removed from someone else's story and still write my own. That felt like enough. After New Year's, back in my apartment, I opened the document one last time, read through the 100+ pages, saw the pattern laid out in meticulous detail, proof that what happened to me had been real, deliberate, systemic. I saved it, backed it up in 3 places, closed it. I didn't delete it, because someday it might be useful, for another Emily, another woman who needed proof she wasn't imagining things. But for now, I was done looking backward. I had a life to build, and for the first time in 6 years, that life belonged entirely to me. Spring came early. By March, the snow had melted, the trees were budding, and Marcus and I had been together 5 months. We'd settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable. Dinners twice a week, weekends together when his kids were away, space when we needed it. He met my mother in April. After lunch, while he helped with dishes, she pulled me aside. "He's good," she said. "I know, you're calmer with him." She was right. With Marcus, I didn't perform. I didn't anticipate or manage expectations. I simply existed, and that was enough. Still, the past didn't stay buried. In May, I received a voicemail from an unfamiliar number. It was Emily. She sounded smaller than before, stripped of certainty. We met at the same coffee shop. She was exhausted. Her divorce had turned aggressive. Daniel's family was trying to recover every cent. Wedding expenses, gifts, shared purchases, reframing generosity as debt. "They're treating me like I scammed them," she said. I read the emails. Saw the pattern immediately. "Do you have documentation?" I asked. She wasn't sure. "Find it," I said. "Every message that calls those funds a gift." It had worked for me. Eventually, she admitted, quietly, that she should have listened when I warned her. "I'm sorry you're hurting," I told her. "But I'm not sorry the pattern is visible now." Later, I called Cara. We talked about documentation, about patterns, about whether protecting future women justified collecting the past. Marcus asked about it that night. "What are you trying to do?" He asked gently. "Make it visible," I said, "so the next woman has a choice." In June, I created a private blog. I wrote everything. My story, Cara's, Emily's, public records, financial structures, patterns of extraction, all factual, all documented. When I made it public in September, I added one disclaimer. This site documents recurring family behavior using first-hand accounts and public records. Names have been redacted. Accuracy has not. I didn't promote it. I waited. In October, Emily called. "Someone found it," she said. "Who?" "Daniel's new girlfriend." And suddenly, the pattern wasn't just recorded. It was interrupting itself. She sent me a message on Facebook. Emily said. Asked if the blog was real. If those stories were true. What did you tell her? The truth. That every word is accurate. That she should get out while she still can. Did she listen? I don't know. She stopped responding after I sent her documentation for my divorce. Maybe I scared her. Maybe she decided I was just a bitter ex-wife. Or maybe she's thinking. I said. Maybe. 2 weeks later, an email arrived from someone named Ashley. "I'm the person Emily mentioned." It read, "The one dating Daniel. I read your blog. All of it. I need to know if this is real, or if you're trying to sabotage his relationships." I chose my words carefully when I replied. Everything on the blog is documented and verifiable. I'm not trying to sabotage anyone. I'm making information available so people can make informed decisions. What you do with it is up to you. She wrote back asking if we could talk. We spoke for an hour. Ashley was thoughtful, precise, asking the kinds of questions that told me she was already paying attention. She wanted specifics, timelines. She wanted to understand whether Daniel was actively complicit or just passively benefiting from his family's behavior. "I think he knows," I said. "Maybe not in a way he'd articulate, but he benefits from it, and that's a form of awareness." She paused. "Have you considered that maybe you're just bitter? That maybe you're seeing patterns that aren't there?" "I have," I said. "That's why I spent 2 years documenting everything. Why I included only verifiable information. Why I spoke to other women who went through the same thing. I wanted to be sure I wasn't imagining it. And you're certain you're not? Check the public records yourself. Property holdings, divorce filings. It's all there." She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "What do you think I should do?" "I can't tell you that," I said. "But I can tell you this. The stage you're in now, where everything feels welcoming and exciting, isn't the whole picture. That welcome is conditional. And if you can't meet those conditions, what happened to us is what comes next. But maybe I can meet them. Maybe I'll be different." Emily thought that too. After we hung up, I felt an odd calm. Not satisfaction. More like I'd fulfilled a role, passed along information. What Ashley did with it was out of my hands. 3 days later, she emailed again. I broke up with him. Thank you for being honest with me. I read it at my desk at work. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady, like the documentation had done what it was supposed to do, like the pattern had been interrupted at least once. That night, I told Marcus. So it worked, he said. It protected someone. One person. I replied. Out of how many who won't find it, or won't believe it? One person matters, he said. That's one woman who won't lose years of her life. He was right, and maybe that was enough. But I also knew it wasn't just about Ashley. It was about the system failing, about information disrupting something that depended on silence and isolation to function. They'd relied on each woman believing she was alone. I'd taken that away. In November, a cease and desist letter arrived from a law firm representing Daniel's parents. It accused me of defamation and demanded I take the blog down. I called Margaret. They can send letters, as she said after reading it. Whether they can enforce them is another matter. Is everything true? Yes. And sourced. Then you're likely protected. But defending yourself could get expensive. I kept the blog up. A week later, Daniel emailed me directly. You need to stop. He wrote. You're hurting people. Please let this go. I recognized the tone. The same request to accommodate, to minimize, to be reasonable at my own expense. I replied once. I'm not stopping anyone from moving forward. I'm making information available. If that information causes problems, that's worth examining. He never responded. 2 days later, his mother called my mother. She said you're bitter. My mother told me. Said you're doing this because you couldn't have children. I felt the familiar chill. The same narrative, reproposed. What did you say? I asked. I told her not to contact me again. My mother said. And I hung up. In December, nearly 3 years post-divorce, I realized something important. I wasn't angry anymore. Not forgiving, but no longer fueled by rage. What had once driven the documentation had settled into something quieter. Acceptance. Purpose. The blog stayed up. Women kept reaching out. Some just to say thank you. Others to share stories. I added what I could. Carefully. Responsibly. The legal threats never materialized. In January, Marcus and I moved in together. Not dramatically, just practically. A house with a yard. Space to breathe. Are you still updating the blog? He asked one evening. Sometimes. I said. When it's relevant. That sounds healthy. It was. In February, Cara emailed me. Another woman had avoided financial damage during divorce because she'd found the blog. That was when I felt something close to peace. I hadn't changed Daniel's family. I hadn't stopped the system, but I'd made it visible, and visibility changed outcomes. That was enough. Section 5 continues. By the fall, the blog turned 3 years old. It held over 50 testimonials spanning for decades. Ex-wives, former girlfriends, women who'd almost married into the system and escaped. I was no longer surprised by new stories, but in October, one email stood out. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a sociologist studying family systems and financial control. I'd like to discuss your documentation as a potential case study. We spoke the following week. What you've documented is textbook, she told me. This is a recognizable system, so I wasn't imagining it. Over the next 6 months, we worked together. Interviews, analysis, frameworks. The research was published that spring. It reached the people who mattered. Therapists, lawyers, social workers. Then came emails from men, from adult children, from professionals asking to share the blog. It had become more than my story. In April, Daniel emailed again. An apology, carefully worded. Late. I didn't respond. His sister did. Her message mattered more. In May, Marcus and I married. Quietly, intentionally, happily. By summer, the blog was background noise. Present, but no longer central. In August, Ashley emailed me again. She was getting married to someone kind, someone safe. This, I thought, is what justice looks like. Not punishment. Prevention. In September, Dr. Chen asked me to contribute a chapter to her book, under my own name. This time, I said yes. The book was published the following spring. It brought attention, questions, validation. Daniel's family threatened legal action again. Nothing came of it. Truth held. In June, 7 years years after my divorce, another woman wrote, "I'm his girlfriend. I need to know, has he changed?" I answered honestly. She ended it a month later. That made 4 women, at least, that I knew of. Marcus hugged me when I told him, "You did a good thing," he said. "You turned harm into protection." And finally, I believed it.